Michael Ledner, pastor of Desert Streams Chapel, and I want to give a short intro to these 3 clips that you're going to see. The first 2 are by Dallas Willard, just a minute and a half each, and then about a 7-minute clip with John Mark Comer, and then interviewed by the pastor of Bridgetown Church in Portland, Tyler Staton. So to give a summary of it, there's a movement, slow but steady and powerful, to clarify what a Christian is compared to what an apprentice or a disciple of Jesus is. These clips will clarify it better than I can, but in summary, this movement is a return to the belief that if we work on the inner life with Jesus, then there'll be a great flow of life that comes through that working of the inner life. We've concentrated too much on the fruit, trying to copy that instead of on the root, getting our roots deep into Him, like our church fathers did and the disciplines that they did, to get that life flow, not by trying to copy that, but by working on the inner life. So this should be an encouragement to those who are already sold out to Jesus, wholehearted for Him, and for those who know that there's something more to that than just getting saved or being born again, which is really important. It's really important to get saved and born again. But this life, after you get saved and born again, is all about training for a glorious eternal reign, an eternal kingdom to come. What we do in this life is either an investment in the kingdom to come, or it's wasted on vain pursuits. Jesus said that there are great rewards for those who are all in for Him and for the gospel. He said that if we found our life outside of Him, we lose it. But if we lose it for Him and for the gospel, we'll find it. If you want to know how to live in this crazy world with a solid foundation that nothing can shake, and how to leave a legacy of love that really matters and end well, I encourage you to listen to these clips, get a notebook, a pen, a cup of coffee, and enjoy. The last video clip you could see in its entirety. It's only a 7-minute clip, but you can see in its entirety if you just put in YouTube, Practicing the Way, podcast episode 1, Apprentice to Jesus. And there are 5 podcasts of Practicing the Way, 5 episodes. So they're all great. Enjoy.
It is now assumed in our culture that you can be a Christian without being a disciple, that you can be faithful to your church while at a loss as to how to handle your home life and your job and perhaps your emotions and even your actions generally. And that's what we want to address when we speak of beyond belief. All of the great words of the Scripture, Job 23:21, acquaint now thyself with Him and be at peace, and so good shall come unto thee. The knowledge of God is supposed to come and permeate our whole life, and it can do that. And that's really all that I will talk to you about, is how that is possible. I will cover a lot of topics which may initially seem a little distant from that, and particularly tonight I want to talk about our basic nature as spiritual beings, who we are, why we are here, what is the purpose of our existence on earth, and then something about why we have such trouble with it. And primarily, as we live our lives, it comes through our body and our social surroundings. And that's the struggle of the flesh with the spirit. For many years, I didn't understand that I was preaching a gospel different than Jesus was preaching. I didn't understand, but I saw that I was getting a very different result from what He was getting. And that made me begin to think that perhaps I should reconsider what I was preaching and try to preach what He preached, and trying to make as clear as possible that discipleship to Jesus Christ is the greatest opportunity any human being will ever have on earth. That everything else pales beside it, and that Jesus Christ is right now in Maryland and in California and in everywhere between and around the world. He's taking students. That's the good news. We need to come out of the position that so many people find themselves in, and certainly the world looking at those who profess to be followers of Christ often seem to see a great gap between ideals and reality. We need to come to the place to where the teachings of Jesus are the simple expression of what we become inwardly. Jesus said, a good tree cannot bring forth bad fruit. It's impossible. And his way is to renew the inside of the person in such a way that when the tests of life come, we simply respond as he would.
Talk about that life cycle. So, an apprentice to Jesus, how would you define apprenticeship to Jesus? What does it look like?
I mean, the rubric that you and I both use is a very simple one. An apprentice or a disciple or a follower of Jesus is anyone who has organized their life around three driving basic goals. Number one, to be with Jesus. Number two, to become like Jesus. And number three, to do as he did. Mm-hmm. And that's just basically an interpretation of first century discipleship. And a lot of modern Christians don't realize Jesus did not invent discipleship. It was like woven into the first century kind of Hebrew world. It was a part of their educational system, kind of like grad school would be today, or a doctoral fellowship would be today. It was the upper echelon. It was the heights of Jewish education. It was really hard to get into, which is why Jesus' invitation is radical, because he said, whoever wants to be my disciple. That'd be like, the president of Harvard saying, whoever wants to go to Harvard on a free ride scholarship, just email me tomorrow. It was just unheard of, and but it was woven into this world, and that's what it meant to follow a rabbi. And Jesus was not the only rabbi with apprentices. It meant that you would literally leave your home, your family, your village. You would go walk behind him. Like, following your rabbi was not a word picture. It was very literal. You would walk behind your rabbi 24/7, and your goal was to be with him. It was to become like him, to imitate his every move. This is not a radical individualism society. You want to become like your rabbi. And then eventually you're training to become a rabbi yourself, to go out and carry on your rabbi's work. And when he was done, when he thought you were kind of through your apprenticeship program after a few years, he would likely turn to you and say something like, okay, Tyler, I think you're ready. We've been together. Now you go and make disciples. And so this is the paradigm that Jesus picked up for the formation of human souls. And so, for me, that's what it means to be an apprentice of Jesus. It means the organizing center of your life is three goals. I want to be with Jesus. I want to become like Jesus. And I want to do as he did.
And we'll have a lot of time to get more into that as the episodes unfold.
Future episodes.
Yeah, so right now, what I want to dig into is the organizing center of your life. All of this is language of intentionality.
Yeah.
So it sounds like what you're saying is this is a call to the church.
Yeah.
Like Willard's language for Christians to become disciples.
Yeah.
To become intentional about orienting the whole of your life around apprenticing under Jesus.
Yeah.
So I imagine some might bristle or lack understanding on what does it mean to become intentional about that?
Yeah.
And should we fear that this is all beginning to sound a little bit like works righteousness?
Well, I guess what I would say is your life is already organized around something. It just may not be Jesus. It may be your career, and trust me, like the careerism of Western culture is 1,000 times more legalistic than anything Jesus has on offer. It may be health and wellness or physical fitness. It may be the arts. It may be pleasure. It may be food. It may be addiction. It may be your family. Like your life has a center. Every life has a center. The question is not, do you have an animating center? It's what or who is it? And is it giving you life? And is it forming you into the kind of person that you most deeply desire to become? And I just think that all other desires we have to do well in work, to have meaningful relationships, maybe to have a thriving family, to be well, all of these other desires only find their rightful place under our deepest desire, which this language of be with Jesus, become like Jesus, do as he did. What are the deepest human desires? Let's just set aside Christian or not, follower of Jesus or not, just human being, wherever you come from. I mean, ultimately, I think, one, we desire what we Christians would call union with God. We desire God. Mm-hmm. We desire a deep experience of love that is transcendent, that is so far beyond us, that people are searching for in nature or mindfulness meditation or new psychedelics. But ultimately,
or human companionship.
Or human companionship, romance. I mean, so much of the modern Western romance obsession it's really the sexual obsession. It's ultimately a craving for union, for intimacy, for love, for acceptance, to be not one, but to be intertwined with another. Like, it's ultimately a desire for God.
Yeah, I mean, that's the first desire that we see in an infant, right? And the desire that never goes away.
Yeah, what's
that we carry forever.
The psychiatrist Kurt Thompson, we are born looking for someone looking for us in love.
Yes.
Like, the attachment system, we're wired. We come out of the womb looking around, will somebody look at me and love me?
Yes.
And no matter how wonderful our mother or father may be,
we never stop looking.
We never stop looking.
Right.
And no human being ever touches that deep ache. Not the best mother, not the best father, not the best lover, not the best. There's always something deeper.
Yes.
And as those that follow God know, and I don't even have clumsy language for it. I'm not even that far yet. But there's this bizarre paradox where you always want more of God, and yet you're never more satisfied by anything other than God. So you're never satisfied, and you're never more satisfied at the same time.
Yeah, I would say my experiences that I have felt most without want, like most content, most joy.
Yes.
You know, that like not pleasure, not delivered through some medium of entertainment or indulgence or anything, but just pure joy have been moments of intimate union with God.
Yeah.
Like moments of encounter with him solo, quietly by myself, or in a loud worship gathering or whatever.
Or in deep relationships where we experience
like
God.
sitting at a dinner table where the conversation reaches a place of depth and substance where it's like touching the deep soul place in everyone. But those are the moments when I feel most like I don't need anything else.
Yeah.
I feel as full as I've ever felt. And yet I want more of this always.
Yes.
Right?
It's like a sunrise or a sunset. Like, you're so thrilled to be there and you're always want it to not stop. You
Exactly.
know? It's that beautiful feeling, you know? And I think that's be with Jesus. That's the first. We all want this. Mm-hmm. The second goal, become like Jesus. We deeply desire. Everybody would use different language, but I don't think there's a human being that doesn't at some level desire to become pervaded by love and goodness.